Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Great, there we go. Not yet, not just yet. Not just yet. So we're coming to our last keynote presentation, not just for the day, but for the conference. And it's titled A Unified Lexicon, Aligning Defense and National Frameworks for Workforce Development. And that will be delivered by none other than Matthew Isnor from the Department of War. Help me welcome Matthew.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the wonderful speech. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on. Good afternoon. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today. I apologize that I am the last one right being holding you up before your happy hours and wonderful Philadelphia cheesesteaks. So I look forward to having the discussion. But I appreciate all the collaboration and everything. Sorry, I'm a pacer. So you're going to have to keep following me back and forth. But I want to, give my esteemed thank you to Karen and her team for hosting this wonderful event, having me out here, and all the collaboration that the NIST organization and the department have done in the past. I look forward to the future initiatives and everything we're doing, kind of moving forward with not only the federal, but the industry and the academia. So thank you for that. So with that, I just wanted to kind of jump in and kind of give you a little update, where we're going with the department, what we're doing, how we're collaborating across all the federal lines, some of the initiatives in the areas that we're doing. So with that, without further ado, just kind of give you a little update. We'll go to the next. Am I doing the slides? Yeah. I got to walk around with these things. All right. So as you know, right now in the technology world, just from the department perspective, we get into the full scope of technology, digital workforce. These are the areas that we kind of consume and what we understand with our talent. We know from talent, they all come from similar backgrounds. They all come from K through 12. They all come through academic programs. And they all have different backgrounds and areas that they're going to go through. But they all have similar capabilities. What we want to be able to do is kind of have that collaboration. Similar to what we're doing with the NICE, NIST frameworks, our STEM individuals inside of the department, we want to make sure that we're all talking. We understand that. We understand where we're going. And we're not competing for talent. There's tons of talent out there. Identifying that talent is what we're trying to do and work with them to make sure we have kind of this blueprint going forward. So in here, what do we really deal with? We have things like IT, cybersecurity, our wonderful offensive, defensive capabilities and cyber effects, intel, AI, data, all those emerging technologies coming up, things like quantum, IoT, all the areas we've got to be able to understand where we want to go, give them the blueprint, communicate with our academic partners of exactly what our workforce is going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's the biggest thing, is having transparency, having communication, and not doing everything in a vacuum. That's what I'm up here to kind of advocate and really work with you guys to do in the future. So this is a department. This is only a Department of War initiative, 8140, but it's kind of a thing that we're trying to kind of push across the whole federal area. When you look at identification, the frameworks, NICE framework, DCWF, we all kind of codify exactly what work roles we want. What do we want them to do? What competencies, what tasks, KSAs, areas of those things. But what do we tie it to? We tie it to operations. We got to make sure we understand what our people's capabilities are, what they can do, where they need to go, and be able to fill those skill gaps and understand where we're short. So we tie everything, ultimately at the end of the day, to readiness. How capable is our workforce? What can we defend? And how can we do it going forward? So that's why initiatives across the board like 8140 come up, is not only identifying our workforce, but we also have to qualify them. We have to give them the tools, the capabilities, the way forward, not only in the entry level or in foundational, but we have to give it into organizational. What tools, what platforms, what open source things do they need? Make sure they work with everyone across the board to have those skill sets. So We are always out there trying to communicate with not only our academic partners, but our industry, our certification partners, to make sure that we are communicating the right skill sets, the right capabilities across the board. So, at the end of the day, and a lot of you have heard these briefs before, so I apologize, just making sure that we kind of cover all the bases, so what we're thinking inside of the department. What does the DCWF do? What do we identify from a cyber personnel, the training, and the tools and equipment from that readiness perspective? How do we align those KSAs? How do we establish the programs? And how do we provide that baseline foundation framework so everyone knows what we're talking about? Give that lexicon. NICE does a wonderful job. It is that international framework. It gives that lexicon so people understand exactly what we're talking about. We can embed those things in various things like competitions, challenges, games, hands-on sandbox capability, range environments, if we're able to communicate that across the board. So that's what we ultimately want to do. This is my favorite slide because it's my super cyber human. How do we build positions? Work roles were never intended to be intended to be the end state position. It's a starting point. It's a building blocks across the board where we actually start with a primary work role and then we start building on top of it. We have other areas because no organization's the same, no industry partner is the same, nobody across the board has the same capabilities or the same mission. So we have to give them that flexibility across to be able to kind of build what they want their individuals to do. They are all specialized in certain skill sets, but they have to be able to kind of be flexible across the board to build the overall capability and cover all those skill gaps. So that's what the DCWF ultimately does. We start building on top. It says 3 work roles here, primary, secondary, tertiary. You can have up to 10 because it's all about the KSAs. It's all about the knowledge and skills, the capability of that person to be able to do the job. Inside of that, for comfortability, the DCWF, NICE frameworks. We've got overall 90% of the work roles in there. We've got all the KSAs and tasks across the board, the competencies, areas. We've mapped it all. There is areas inside of this that we do from cybersecurity that is really hand in hand. We have a great partnership with Karen and the NICE NIST group. We have an ability of trying to kind of forecast where we want to go, how do we want to build across the federal government, with industry, with academia. This is a big problem from a US perspective. We have to be in lockstep and not have these silos of efforts going across. So we are always, I give this full understanding and agreement from the department, we are there and we will always be there to help and support the bigger, broader federal partnership and all of the areas that we're going with the NICE framework. So we did this mapping. You can see there's areas, not all the work roles and areas and naming conventions are the same. Industry partners all call things differently. We go to academia, they call things differently. But if you look at what is important, it's the knowledge and skills. It's the areas of what they do, the capability of what they do. We got to make sure that that's what we're looking at. Don't worry if you're called a cyber defense analyst. That's something that is just kind of given an identifier to make sure you have kind of the best of breed. What do you really do? This is our, what is it, monstrosity? Is that what I call it? Seven different elements. I mentioned it at the very first thing, where we go. This is growing inside of the department. Everyone's taking notice. This gives us the ability to track our capability. Everything is built off of data. We got to justify the overall workforce. How do we grow across the board? How do we advocate for resources? How do we go and get the palming funding in areas to grow things like, I don't know, competitions, exercises? How do we grow training events, certifications? All of those things across the board, we've got to put into platforms and data repository to make sure that we're telling this and communicating this to our senior leaders. That's what we're trying to do across at the end of the day. I have harped on it from every speech that I will ever give is the only thing that keeps things going is money. If you want programs, you've got to be able to tell the storyline. You've got to advocate for resources. You've got to be able to show the data. My wonderful term that my team will always tell you, I say, return on investment. We've got to be able to show why we should spend millions and millions of dollars on things across the board, competition, challenges, all of those things, exercises, skill-based. Help me be able to tell that story. Help us from the partnership of the federal government be able to tell that story. So, I said I want to give kind of a snapshot of where we're going. Just from the department perspective, again, the DCWF is the department's flavor on what the NICE framework is. It is the building blocks. NICE framework is the federal government. It is the industry partnership. It is a starting point for cybersecurity. The DCWF builds on top of that. We focus on our mission. The department has our own mission. That's what we have to be, that's who I have to answer to. That's my stakeholders. So I gotta make sure that I give them the best practices across the board. When we do that, we are always agile, flexible, and responsive to our operational organizations. They come to me and say, we're missing this. We don't have this allocated inside of the framework. I don't see my presence inside of that. So on a monthly basis, I'm constantly churning, possibly doing new focus groups, areas that we can kind of update content and be able to grow the elements that I showed you before. We have 77 now. But that is one thing that that I've already agreed, work with Karen and her group to make sure we're articulating that over to the federal side as well. Some of it is outside of the cybersecurity elements. Sometimes it's in various things like cyber effects. You see the two elements on there, the data engineer, analytics support officer. That's when Cyber Command comes to me and says, this is the skill set that I need. This is the areas from the knowledge and skills. Again, don't harp so much on the naming conventions. They have a meaning for what they want it to mean internally. It is all about what the capability is. What are they going at? We do the analysis across the board where we look at all the knowledge and skills inside of the frameworks. We make sure we don't have redundancy. So that's what we need to work with. We need to start up this regular collaboration with not only us, but the federal partners and industry to make sure that we're communicating that across. You see at the bottom some of the areas that we're going, where we added new ones, secure configure specialist. That was out of Space Force. That's one of our new military services. They actually had a gap where they had a different flavor of cybersecurity on how they actually implement that into their satellites and how they actually configure their mechanisms. So we had to make sure that we had that annotated correctly. Again, back to the advocating for resources. If we don't have work roles, if we don't have it annotated correctly, we can't go get training. We can't go get areas to get our individuals upskilled. So that's what the ultimate framework gives us, is that tool to be able to go after that. All right. One big initiative that we've been working on, and I actually went to a wonderful talk earlier about skill-based. Some of I commend the NICE group for putting wonderful talks to this whole week. I apologize I wasn't here yesterday. I was down at TechNet Baltimore, but I went to a couple today, and the topics and discussions between everyone has been tremendous. The thoughts, I think everyone's in this like mind of where we're going and what we need to do to kind of solve those skill gaps. This one right here is something we've been working on for about 1.5 years, 2 years. The biggest thing that we wanted to get away from was the bubble sheets, circling questions. What are people's skills? What are the interview questions? What are the areas where we go through these things of trying to identify talent? I was talking earlier, we work in the technology field. Not every tech person is great at interviews. Not every tech person is great at talking, but they are great at tech. So let's put them in the range environment and see what they can do. That's what we're ultimately out of trying to do. We're putting together and validating skills assessments where you put them in a range, you put them in a sandbox, you teach them how to do their job, or you show what capability they have right now. Basically, what we've done is worked with all of our SMEs to understand exactly what people would think of an individual coming into their organization, what knowledge base, what skills should they have, or expectation-wise. So that's what we put into our skill-based. So actually, we've gone through a couple different validations. If you guys are interested, I have a wonderful 96-page document that is a report. It's an easy read, glass of wine, you're good. But it's back to my data thing. It shows the validation. It shows the usefulness of what we try to do across the board, and it helps me articulate this over to my senior leaders to gain to gain that response and be able to actually try to implement this going forward. Communicate not only in the department, but externally. Start communicating with skill-based or OPM. I know you've seen in this area, this administration is about identifying talent, get them hired quicker, get them on net, do operations much quicker. That's what we ultimately want to do. From an academic perspective, it would be awesome to be able to implement these areas to see where your students are at. What can they do? Where do we see the gaps? How do we identify those areas? The frameworks are a starting point. It tells us the knowledge and skills. Let's implement that into the skill-based to be able to really assess their overall capability. So this is the challenge statement that I always throw up in seniors. We've got tons of deficiencies and areas inside of the department. We have over 7,000, I think it's 7,600 various positions that we need to fill. We have vacancies across. So the department, at the end of the day, it's astounding how many people, we turn over 10,000 jobs in cyber every year. We lose 10,000. That is bigger than anybody else in the federal government combined. So that's what we're trying to fill, and we have things like aging workforce. We need to get better at filling those junior talent, building that pipeline, building the benchmark of individuals coming in and being able to get more of our junior talent in. So that's where the skill-based and identifying those areas is going to be key going forward. As I mentioned, this administration, you see a lot of the EOs, things like 13932, 14170, they talk about skill-based. How do you hire? How do you go about these initiatives? How do you get people on in your jobs much quicker? That's what we're trying to accomplish. We want to be in line with what our administration is doing, and we want to make sure that we tackle this. So, our real-world ones. These are actually live screenshots of what actually the assessment looks like. If you're interested, please reach out to me and my team. We can definitely work with you to see about demos and things, maybe do a show and tell, come see what the actual environment looks like. But again, it's a 30-minute assessment. It's focusing on our biggest skill gaps right now. Cyber defense analyst, incident responders. Those are the individuals right now. That's what I started with. As you know, various work roles. We've got 77 in the DCWF, 38 in the NICE framework, areas where we need to be able to use these and leverage these to build that and identify the talent going forward. So we build them in the sandboxes, we throw them into validation of skills assessments, we validate it, we throw it through the gonculator, as I call it, to make sure we have this output. At the end of the day, we want to customize. We want to be able to adjust the scenarios across the board. As I mentioned, the cyber workforce is massive. We need to be adjust and be flexible and agile as we go through it. Be able to filter those through. Right now, we're at the beginning stages. Baby steps across the board. We'll get there. But I think there's a lot of possibilities of partnerships with the federal government, with the industry partners, with our academic partners. Everyone's thinking about this on different scale, different methods, but I think we come together and actually be able to collaborate and have a best practices going across the board. My wonderful last talk, I've had a couple discussions earlier today. Inside of 8140, we look at the total force. We have militaries in there, we have civilians, we have guards members, we have reservists, and the last effort that we have is our contractors. We consider everyone in this ecosystem the same. We got to make sure that we understand their capability and we qualify them. We don't want anybody going into networks and things across the board to make sure what is their capability, how do we go about doing it. We don't want to give them the keys to the kingdom across. So that's why we have gone through this painstaking process of updating various policies, legislation, all of these things. It's called our acquisition and sustainment area. It's called DFARS. I don't know who here is familiar with that. I think the FARS is for the federal government. We just updated it. It took us 4 years to do. We were able to kind of work with our ANS counterparts. We just got it updated. They delegated the functional community management down to us at the CIO, gave us the responsibility, and we finally got through with a memo that is signed by Honorable Davies, and going to be pushing that out in the near term. So, what does that mean? That is the starting point. It starts the clock where now all contractors that are in the department that align to cyber or IT services will have to start reporting in accordance with 8140, the frameworks areas across the board. I can tell you I'm not going to expect that next week, so take a breath. But we are going to put Tiger teams together. We're going to come up with implementation and try to and come up with the best process. How do you go about being able to report? What data systems, what platforms can they report in? How do you update things like statements of work? How do you go about doing that to articulate that to the contracting workforce? There's different rules, regulations to be able to kind of go through. So we're going to come up with the best practices, come up with an implementation guidance to push out. Happy to share that across the board. And then be able to kind of slowly implement this over the next 18 months, 24 months, however long the Tiger team comes up with to be able to implement. So everyone take a breath. It's not next week. It'll happen, but it's a slow process. This is kind of a monumental effort that we've, over the last 4 years, and finally it's over, and now we get to move to the next step. I know because every speech for the last 3 years I've been asked about this. All right. So I kind of went through that fairly quickly because I always like to, have that interactive questions, any comments, things. I know I'm at the end, and I know you guys, some of you are going to be catching trains pretty soon here and want to move on to the next level. Again, I want to thank the NIST NICE team for everything they've done, putting these areas together, bringing this wonderful collaboration, one of my favorite conferences every year. It brings, and being able to go through these various talks, it is enlightening to understand that everyone has that same mindset and has that same way forward. So again, thank you for the invitation and look forward to the future collaboration going forward. So I'll pause. Yeah, if you want to do Q&A, I'm happy to take a couple questions. I'm here all day. I'm not leaving until tomorrow.
So thank you. Hello? Try now. Thanks, Matt. Jessica from US Cyber Games. I really appreciate the perspective of the skills base and what DOW is doing. Is there any effort around the strategic 2B, the vision statement, so that we can work with academic to actually pull in the right calibration of skills for the next 5 to 10 years? It just seems like we're missing that visionary piece. It's like we have all the processes and such, but what are the skill sets that we're going to need in the future?
Yeah, very good question. We actually have, he wasn't able to make it, Scott Nelson is the acting director for CAO, and actually his wonderful Zoe, is she here? She left. They are working right now on that forecasting effort. So we're going to work with my team and their team to be able to predict what the next 3 to 5 years look like, what is the industry, what is the benchmarking, try to give you that snapshot inside of and aligned to the framework itself. I can tell you right now the biggest areas that we are kind of pushing: cyber operations, cyber operator, things like exploitation analyst, software developers. All of those areas are kind of the benchmark for what the biggest need is. I mentioned 511s, cyber defense analysts. That's our biggest vacancy inside of the department right now. So you can see the two sides: network defense and offensive capability. So that's pretty much, until that forecasting initiative comes to fruition, that's pretty much all I can give. But it's a pretty big skill gap to fill. Sir.
Walid Farag, the director of the Institute of Cybersecurity at IUB. Thanks a lot, Matt. And a quick question here. Can you address the subjectivity of the skill-based evaluation?
Yeah.
Do you have a concern about that?
I don't, yeah. And that's one of the wonderful report of, we actually were going through and shooting for about a 70% threshold. So basically what we did for this last one is we sent about 170 individuals through where we had a collection of 511s, 531s, so network defenders, and everyone else. So like IT individuals, other cybersecurity individuals, cyber effects people, sent them through the assessment. We were shooting for about a 70%. We actually got to 92%. So it was actually a wonderful predictive analysis, and we actually found the reason that it wasn't 100% was the one person that actually got through was coded as a different work role, but was a former 511. So it was something really eye-opening in the ability to actually really predict the throughput of the skill-based. Again, it's a starting point. It's something that we can kind of refine and work with all of our various partners from academia and industry to really make it better. But I think it's a good kickoff to get away from the old way of trying to identify talent. Yeah. Anyone else? And again, I will be here afterwards too. Happy to have one-on-one conversations.
Hi, Matt. Thanks
Hi,
for
Dan.
your talk today.
Thank you.
You mentioned ops being one of the big things you're looking for in the future or now. And in a couple of the conversations I've had throughout the conference, ethics has come up, especially when talking about operational skills, learning the ops side. Do you have any thoughts on how academia can convey, teach that side of things?
Yeah, I think one of the big things, because from an operational, OCO perspective, there's certain skill sets that you have to learn once you get inside, the classified environments and all those things. Various, cyber operations, pen testing, red teaming, those types of skill sets are very similar because you're looking at individuals trying to find vulnerabilities. You're constantly pinging infrastructure networks. There's transferable skill sets across the frameworks that you can identify from an OCO perspective to a DCO perspective that we can kind of take outside and be able to communicate with the academic. I think the one biggest thing, and I was talking to one of the groups earlier, is hands-on capability. We need to build that a lot more into curriculum, content, get into range environments, test skill sets. When students going through and they're coming out, it gives them a better understanding of exactly what those operations look like. It doesn't have to be operations. It can be just, play environments or capture the flags, areas to make sure that they are able to get in those various sandboxes to be able to kind of practice and hone their skill set. But I think from an offensive perspective, it is some of the areas that is transferable, again, that you can look at the frameworks. We just actually updated one of ours. We have a red team specialist now. It has a lot of overlap in what we do from cyber operations. Hi, ma'am. That is a very good question. So if everyone didn't hear what we're doing and what our plan is for OT. What we did, there was an initiative about 2 years ago from the ONCD, Office of National Cyber Director, to kind of codify exactly what OT does. It didn't have anything in the frameworks. We went through a painstaking area where we actually created a work role, control system specialist. It's in the framework right now. But recently that has arisen of it's not enough. We need to make sure that we go back and take a look. So we have another Tiger team that's going to be standing up fairly soon, or working group, where we're going to actually bring in a lot of the OT specialists from the services and from the other areas. Would love to start collaborating with the federal partners and even industry to see how we can kind of expand that. Maybe make it its own element itself, but really take that one work role and kind of really grow it into other work roles. So it's definitely highest on our priority list right now to make sure that we get it right and make sure we accurately depict what the whole OT workforce is doing, because it's a huge effort. Yeah. Anything else? Nothing? All right. Again, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Say go DJ, 'cause that's my DJ. Say go
your hands together, everyone. Another round of applause for an absolutely fantastic conference. Now, it's my job to close out the conference, and I have the opportunity of having the last shot at Barbara. She did tell me that if I called her name, she'd have her team turn the camera off. But jokes aside, it has been a fantastic conference. It's almost surreal knowing that months ago, almost a year ago when we started the planning for this year's conference, when the team huddled and we started to chart the way forward, that it culminated and has culminated at such a successful event. And so I'd like you to put your hands together for the team from NICE. Put your hands together for the team from NICE and their vision, and for sharing in the vision with FIU. I'd also like to thank the FIU team, and they're standing over there. Patty, Jenny, who is in the back, Nicole, Vanessa, Tyler, keep it going, Julian, Jocelyn, and you all know Randy, he's sitting over there, and of course, Barbara, Patty. We could not do any of this without you. And of course, all of this wonderful production that has taken place, Leon and his team from Full Circle Production deserves a round of applause. I'd also like to thank all the speakers that took the time to fly in to be with us here at Philly, in Philly, to help us to make the conversations more enriching, to bring the data, to bring the statistics, to bring the evidence, to rise the conversation to where we need it to be, to help us to find good and strong strategies that can help us and our organizations move forward. We envision that the NICE conference should not be a talk shop, but should be a place where we not only just convene, but we also find solutions that can help us help each other to build, to make a safer and more cyber-safe world. And I think, confidently, that at the end of this conference, we have achieved just that. And so I know everyone is anticipating where and when will the next NICE conference be. Drum roll, please. The fact of the matter is, I don't know the answer, because there is no answer to that question. So I invite you to stay tuned. Over the next couple of months, that information will become more apparent to you. And in that spirit, also stay tuned. All the wonderful photos that have been taken, all the slides from all the sessions, all the recordings from the plenary sessions will be made available on the NICE website. And so stay tuned for the follow-up information from that. And with that, whether you came by train, whether you walked or by bus or by plane, I say to you, in the good old Jamaican parlance, one love and walk good. Thank you.
Say this, say go DJ, 'cause that's my DJ.